Hi guys, and welcome back to another algebra lesson. Today's lesson is over Unit 5, Lesson 4, Graphing Linear Equations. And so in the past few videos, we have talked about three different types of linear equations. We have slope-intercept form, we have point-slope form, and we have standard form. You can graph from any one of these forms. They do go from easiest to hardest in terms to graph in the order that I numbered. So slope-intercept form is the easiest and standard form is the hardest, but none of them are very hard overall. Now, how you know you are successful today is, one, I can graph a line using any of the three linear equations. And then number two, I know how to convert between any of the three linear equations. So you can convert between those. One thing you want to know is that no matter what equation you use, it is the same line. So you could write one linear equation and then put it into slope-intercept form and put it in point-slope form and put it in standard form. They can look different, but they are graphing the same thing. So as long as you do your math right, any one of these should work. So let's go ahead and talk about, how to use it to graph. So slope-intercept form is our easiest. This one, this one's a smile. So what you're going to do is you're going to plot the y-intercept. And your y-intercept, that's known as b, okay? So it's this guy right here. And then you are going to use the slope. This is abbreviated m. And so that's going to be, your rise and your run. You probably hear your teacher call it rise over run. And so here is our m. And so we just get those numbers straight out of the equation the way it's written. So it is very easy peasy. Now, slope-intercept form is easy, but with a twist. So, it's rated a 2 for difficulty. So what we're going to do is you're going to graph the first point. Using the y1 and the x1. Now, tricky alert. This is a thing you got to watch out for. This is the only thing that makes it a little difficult is you got to remember the sign is opposite. Okay, so by this I mean is that you have this negative here and you have this negative here. So if we take an equation, and I'm just going to make one up, let's say that we've got y minus 5 equals, 2 is my slope, and then say we have x plus 3. If we wanted to know our starting point on that, this is my x. But notice the equation has a negative in it, okay? So my x value is actually negative 3. Because if we did x minus a negative 3, it's the same thing as x plus 3, okay? So my x is a negative 3, and for the same reason, this minus 5, my y value is actually a positive 5. Because if we did the equation where it's got that negative, y minus 5. That's how it would be written, right? So you just have to remember you've got to flip your sign. So that is just your one tricky alert. And then we're going to use our slope to count our rise over run. And so slope is abbreviated m. Okay, so we can get our slope straight from this equation, and then we can get our point straight from the equation, but we got to flip that sign, okay, because it's got the negative in the equation itself. All right, standard form, this is going to be the most difficult one. It's not hard, but it's kind of like it's a little bit more math, okay? So we are going to graph using the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay, when the x-intercept is when y equals 0. And so how you find this is you are going to plug in 0 for y and solve for x. Okay, and then the y-intercept is when x is 0. So to solve this, you're, let's see. Made a little mistake there. We're going to plug in 0 for x and solve for y. Now, your teacher will probably expect that you can find your x-intercept and your y-intercept, but I can tell you a little trick. If the standard form ever gets sticky and you have a hard time graphing from it, you can convert it to slope-intercept, and it's much easier to graph. Okay, so that is a little escape hatch because all these forms are equal. As long as your algebra is good going from form to form, they will all graph the same line. Okay, so how does this look here when we go on? Now, of course, if I am going too fast, be sure and pause it. We're going to come down here and we're going to solve some things. All right, our first one, notice this is my y-intercept one, or slope-intercept form. Yay! So this is the one that makes us the most happy because this is super easy to graph. What we're going to do is we are going to grab our slope and we're going to grab our y-intercept. Okay, so first thing, my y-intercept is -4. So I'm going to come down here and put a dot at -4. And then my slope is 3. And so remember how slope works is it's rise over run. And when you go over here in this direction, your slope is positive. If we went this way, the slope is negative. Now this is a positive slope. So we're going to aim to go over here. So this 3 is really, it's really a fraction. It's 3/1. We don't write it that way because, we don't have to, that 1 in the denominator, but it is useful to know for graphing this equation. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3 and over 1, and then up 1, 2, 3 over 1. And I'm not always the best at like drawing these on the computer, but it looks something like this, okay? Now, it did ask us the question, is this a solution? Is this point a solution? And so you might remember in earlier algebra work, if something is a solution, it will make a true statement, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can make a true statement. The 7 is my x, the 17 is my y. I'm going to take my original equation, which is this. I'm going to plug in this x and y. So my 7 and 17, x and y. I'm going to plug that in. So here, I'll put a 7. And y is 17. 3 times 7 is 21 minus 4. Okay, 17 minus 4, 21 minus 4 is 17. And we end up with this. This is true. Okay, what this means is that, yes, this is a solution. Okay, so even though 7, 17, if we wanted to try to graph, it would be like way, up here. We can't get to it. Okay. This is the thing with equations. Equations, aren't just to torture students in algebra. They're useful for predictions, right? Like, so that's like the point of equations, is that if we know this is true, we can find values that are not readily visible to us. We can make predictions. And that's what science does. Science takes this math modeling and they make predictions with it. All right. Let's see, example number 2. This one is not in any kind of form. This is not slope-intercept. This is not y-intercept, this isn't slope-intercept. This isn't slope-intercept. This isn't point-slope form, and this isn't standard form. The x and y are on opposite sides, but we also have a constant. So we're just going to rearrange this. And honestly, the easiest, is I'm going to go into slope-intercept. I'm going to put it in this form. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, so let's see, we got 2y minus 4 equals x. I'm going to move my 4 over. I get 2y equals x plus 4. I'm going to divide by 2. And I get this equation, y equals 1/2 x plus 2. Easy peasy to graph. So we can come up here to 2. And then we're going to go, my rise over my run, I'm going to go up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. And so then I'm going to carefully try to graph this. Looks something like that. Okay. Now, we wanted to know, is 10/6 a solution? Okay, so I'm going to erase a little bit because I wrote kind of everywhere here. Is 10/6 a solution? Okay, remember, this is my x, and this is my y. We're looking to see, does it make a true statement? So we got 2. This is my y. So I'm going to grab my y here. 2 times 6 minus 4 equals x. My x is 10. Okay, 2 times 6 is 12. Minus 4 equals 10. And you can already probably see we got a problem. 12 minus 4 is 8 equals 10. No, this is a false statement, right? This is not a solution. Okay, so no, makes this a false solution or a false statement. All right, let's go ahead and erase this. Again, if I'm going too fast, pause it. Alrighty, so I want to go to my next easy. So I'm going to skip over example 3 for right now, and I'm going to go ahead and go to what I think is the next easiest. I'm going to grab this one. Okay, my y-intercept, point slope form. This is my slope right here. Okay, so my slope equals -2. My point, this is my y, but remember my y is going to be the opposite sign. This is my x, but my x is going to be the opposite sign. So remember when you write your point, you're writing in x, comma, y format. So my point that I'm going to start at is 1, -5. Okay, so I am going to come over here, 1 down to -5. I'm going to start down here. And my slope is -2. So remember, negative slope points this way, right? So when I do my rise over run, I'm going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. But I got to remember that I've got to slant it this way because that's the way my negative line goes. So let's see. Let's go ahead and graph this. I graphed a little cattywampus, which is typical for me. Let's see. Let's go ahead and figure out that point. So we need to figure out, is 9 -20, is that a solution? All right. Let me kind of clean this up a little bit so we can see this equation. We're just going to plug in that x value and that y value where we see it here. So my y is -20. So I'm going to write down -20 plus 5 equals -2x. Whoops. Let me erase that. My x value here is 9 minus 1. All right. So -20 plus 5 is -15. 9 minus 1 is 8 times -2 is -16. This is false. Okay, so no, this is not a solution. Okay, so that would not be a prediction that would fall on our line. All right, let's look at this one here. This one's going to be a little bit more math, okay, because we're going to have to do, we find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay. My x-intercept is when y equals 0. Okay, so that's the rule. When y equals 0, that's the x-intercept. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this equation, 4x plus 2, but when I get to this y, I'm going to plop a 0 in it, equals 8. Okay, we know anything times 0 is just going to drop out, so that went away. So then we get 4x equals 8. We're going to divide by 4. And so my x-intercept is 2. I can come over here and graph my number 2. We're going to do the same thing for the y-intercept, but we got to do it for y-intercept. This is when x equals 0. So it's the same idea. Okay, my x is 0. And so I'm going to do 4 times 0 plus 2y equals 8. This cancels. 2y equals 8. And my y-intercept is 4. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to 4. So now I can see, where to graph my line. So it's a little bit harder. You have to do a little bit more math, but it's not bad. Okay, it's just the hardest of the two. Okay, so now the last part is we want to find out, is 6 negative 8 a solution? So remember, this is my x, this is my y. I'm going to write 4, and then I've got my x. I'm going to take this x value, and I'm going to plop it right in. I got 2 y. I'm going to grab this y value, including that negative, plop it right in, equals 8. 4 times 6 is 24. 2 times negative 8, negative 16, equals 8. 24 minus 16 does indeed equal 8. 8 equals 8. This is a true statement. So yes, this is a solution. Okay. And so that is the lesson for today. Until next time, bye guys.